Hey, Blooming Tribe. Good evening, my lovelies. And welcome to another one of our live sessions. So, I'm waiting on you guys to jump on. Just giving you a few minutes while I check out my face and my hair in this video. So I'm just making a couple notes. While I'm waiting for you guys to log on. Hi, Terrian. Thank you for joining me. I'm just waiting on a couple other people to join so that we can start talking tonight about healing from hurt. Hi, everybody. So I'm Kamala, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm the face behind White Lotus Blooms. So tonight this is day 6 of our 21 Days of Blooming challenge. And I wanted to talk tonight about a particular question that I included in one of my worksheets yesterday on day 5. And that question, the last question on the worksheet was, what have been the 3 biggest hurts that you've experienced in the last decade, and are you healing? And based on your responses to the question, to the worksheet in general, but in particular, people were highlighting that particular question. I figured that it would be good on day 6 to do a little talk about healing, about, hey, Diane, hey, Marie, to do a little talk on healing, and especially healing after hurt, because there's no way that we can step into 2020 and beyond in epic greatness if it is that we are still lugging around, toxic things inside of us, unhealed things, unidentified things, etc. So it's so important for us to become very clear, right, on where we have been, where we're going, and what we need to do on the journey to get there. So, welcome everybody. Welcome again. This is day 6 of the challenge, and I'm so glad that you guys are following along. Thank you for the feedback, the questions, the comments. And we have 15 more days to go until it's a brand new year, right? So I hope you guys are getting ready, setting your intentions, having your vision boards, and just doing like an inventory of what you want to bring, hey, and what you do not want to bring with you into a new decade, yeah? So let's talk a little bit tonight now. So for those of you who are listening, if you haven't answered the question yet, right, the question from worksheet, the worksheet that was shared yesterday on day 5. The question is, what have been your 3 biggest hurts of the last decade, and are you healing? And I typically leave like a few minutes of a kind of pause to allow people to think about it, because I know that it takes some reflection to say, would that be one of the biggest ones? Would it not be? And to also give yourself permission to actually feel the stuff, identify them, and just start through it, right? So the worksheet should be still in my stories if you want to look at it. If you sign up for the Blooming Tribe mailing list in the bio, then you'll be able to I can send it to you. But you can just screenshot it if you like and just kind of go through the questions, yeah? So we're talking about hurt and healing for this evening. So first of all, it's human to hurt. So when the men come on, I hope we're getting a couple of them soon, right? When the men come on, we have to remember that human beings hurt, human beings heal. And so it's normal, it's natural to feel some type of way, some big ways about things that have happened to us. It's very important, like it's the foundation for us to remember that we cannot gloss over it. That's what gets us into trouble, right? The glossing over the fact that you are hurt, that you feel some type of way or some leap away about something that has happened to you. So the first thing I want to talk about tonight, as it relates to healing from heartbreak, healing from hurt, is you have to go through it and not around it. Yeah? So I know that many of us, like, we are the strong woman type, and we don't like to be vulnerable, some of us. Sometimes we don't even like to be vulnerable when it's just us. because we don't like to admit that, I did not do that right. I didn't make the best choices in that situation. And so we kind of pussyfoot around the issue of hurt, right? But it's important, first of all, to remember that we have to go through it and not around it. Going through it is not fun. And as I said in the caption of the meme I posted this evening, similar to when we get like a physical injury, sometimes it takes more pain to get rid of pain. Sometimes you have to massage the area and you don't want to touch it at all. But it's the same thing with our psycho-emotional pain and our wounds. We absolutely have to, must, we have to identify what it is. And that's why I shared the question on the worksheet yesterday. We have to identify what it is, and we have to identify why exactly do we feel hurt. Why exactly did that particular situation make you feel hurt? That is $1 million question. Because as we know, we all experience pain differently. So something may happen to a sister in the tribe and they don't experience it the same way that we do, right? So it's important for us to identify, as part of our self-awareness and our healing, to figure out what exactly about that situation made me feel hurt. Was it, am I hurt because of my own actions or lack of actions? Am I hurt because I feel betrayed by the actions of somebody I thought I could have trusted? Am I hurt because I invested so much and didn't get a return? So you feel let down. What exactly is the source of the hurt? Yeah, that's important, because you have to kind of start figuring out, what is this pain telling you about yourself, what you were expecting, and therefore who you really are and who you need to be in the next phase, in the next relationship, in the next friendship, in the next whatever it is that hurt you, right? So that's a very important part of the story. Then now, after we identify what exactly it is, then we have to start looking at what is normal. So if it's a case where, as the meme suggests in today's post, we're talking about a relationship. So you are in love or dating or in a beautiful space with somebody, and you felt hurt by their actions, whether it was betrayal, whether it was that it was a lack of support, whether it was infidelity. And when I say betrayal, it's not only about infidelity. We're talking about other types of betrayal. So in my live on, I think it was Saturday or Friday, I spoke about the fact that I've heard Dr. Karen Carpenter speak on financial infidelity, which many people have never even thought of as a thing, where people are in relationships with other people, and when you look, they wipe out your account, or they're spending your money, or they're being unfaithful in terms of, the agreements that you had set as a couple, right? As it relates to what we will do, what we won't do, violation of trust. So betrayal kind of covers a whole host of things there. So we're talking about romantic relationships in particular tonight, yeah? So something happened, you felt hurt in some type of way. It's normal, first of all, to be angry, because sometimes I feel like we need permission. We need to be reminded that, yeah, this is normal. Because sometimes we feel guilt about feeling some type of way about it, right? So I'm here to tell us tonight that it's normal to be angry. It's normal to wonder, how did I get into this? What was it about me that caused this to happen? It's normal to wish the person bad, yeah? It's normal to not want to hear their names, not want to talk about them. It's normal, right? It's normal to fixate to some extent, to wonder about what they're doing, right? If it's a case where there was a breakup, what they're doing now, who they're with now, how is that going? It's normal to have regret about having been in that space in the first place. So many of these things, right? These emotions, which are very unpleasant to feel, are normal, and we need to remember that. We also need to remember that we can't go on automatic and say, oh, it's normal, because then we graduate into the unhealthy. So it's normal to have these kind of feelings, but we have to step in and say, okay, I can't hold on to this. I can't live here. And that's what the meme tonight is talking about. The fact that we need to release grudges. We need to free up our emotional space, because when you have a grudge, what ends up happening is that it takes energy out of you to hold on to a grudge. Right? What does a grudge really look like? You're talking bad about the person, you're thinking bad about them, you're ruminating on the last details of what happened or never happened. You're wondering about your future. You are making assumptions about what this thing means about you. And sometimes in that kind of hurt space, those thoughts are irrational and we have to watch out for those. Okay? So we soon come to that. But it's normal to a point, but we have to stop and say, listen, I can't live in this heartbreak. I can't live in the hurt of this experience, because then what's going to happen to me? I'm going to literally be stuck. All right? So to some extent, it's normal to want to be in that person's space again, depending on how it happened. It may be that you have the desire, like you have to be holding on to your phone, right? Or holding on to your hands to not want to text them and reach out, because a part of you, sometimes we see that it wasn't the healthiest space, but guess what? We have other needs that we want met that obviously that person was meeting at some point. And so the temptation to keep it going despite the hurt can be there as well. And if any of this sound familiar, just raise your hands up in the comments, right? And if you have any questions, I'm fully open to interruptions, right? I want to engage with you. I want us to have dialogue, right? So if any of this sounds familiar after a breakup, after heartbreak, after being hurt by somebody that you loved in a romantic space, feel free to say something, because it's normal to some extent. So you kind of want to stalk out the stories, because you kind of want to see what's happening. And we, especially as women, and tell me if you guys can identify with this, sometimes we have these irrational interpretations of what things mean. And especially if we started from a place where we did not have the self-worth and the self-regard and the self-esteem, and that person's validation was the bulk of our validation, it can be devastating for that to be quote-unquote taken away. Thank you, Diane, my sister in the tribe, for sharing that. Yeah? It can be devastating to no longer have that validation, because it's then like you're saying, so hold on, if he no longer finds me attractive, if he no longer finds me valuable in some way, then what does that mean about me? Like, what am I going to do now? And that is why if you go through my post on social media, and if you ever listen to me talk anywhere, especially in this kind of context of relationship coaching and so on, I almost always go back to self-love. Why is that? Because we have to have a foundation. Firstly, we have to love ourselves first. We have to validate our own selves. We have to value our own selves. We have to affirm ourselves and not look for it externally, because the external is, we don't have control over the external. And so if that gets taken away and we don't have a healthy original foundation, we're topsy-turvy. We're going to be shaky, right? We're going to literally sink into depression. We're going to literally sink into identity crises, like, who am I? What am I? Why am I even here? And the reason I've started this whole thing of talking about relationships is not because I think I'm some great expert on relationships. It's out of my passion and my training. So as an associate clinical psychologist, I sit across from too many women and girls in therapy who are devastated, suicidal, depressed, cutting themselves, wishing they were never born because of heartbreak, because a man, a boy, a guy said to you at some point that I don't want this anymore. I don't want to be with you anymore. And the devastation and the cascading devastation just goes. And that is why self-love has to be it. Thank you, Trevisa. You said self-love and self-care are so important. If we can't love or care for ourselves, then how can we love and care for others? And we hear it all the time, Trevisa. And it's sometimes I think we kind of minimize it because we hear it so often. But there is a fallacy that we fall into, in that we actually pride ourselves on being good people if we're good to others. And we get almost nothing. Yeah? So I care about you, so I show that to you. I tell that to you. I make sacrifices for you. And what about us? What about us? What about us? We are not programmed, especially as women, right, to really be intentional about self-care. And so we end up falling into this sacrificial mindset around love. Yes, dependency on others instead of validating yourself. Yes. No, don't get it twisted. It's fully normal, even if you are a self-loving person and you have a solid foundation, to still feel some type of way if it is that that gets taken away. But I promise you, the bounce back, the rebuilding, the restabilizing to say, okay, snap out of it now, is so much quicker and easier when it is that our foundation of self-love is solid. Okay? Because especially in our, well, hopefully we're growing and maturing as we're aging, yeah? But for some of us in our younger years, it's like before we even knew ourselves and we end up being with somebody and that falls apart, it can be like we almost want to mad because we don't know who we are outside of being that person's girlfriend, that person's fiance, whatever the case might be. We don't know. They defined us in many ways. I am his woman. But who are you? Separate and apart from that. So let's kind of shift the narrative to begin with, moving forward into 2020. We are dropping this whole thing of getting all of our validation or most of it from any external source, period, point blank. If you're on that, say something in the comments, yeah? Because it's not serving us and it's making us more vulnerable when it is that the uncoupling takes place, yeah? So that's foundation. That's like the crux of it all. You have to love yourself. You have to know who you are and see the value. See the value. That's okay, my dear. See the value in who you are. Period. Just as an individual, not as anybody's bae. You are valuable because you are. Just because you are, you're valuable. And we need to practice that. We need to be mindful of it and present in that truth. Okay? So, self-love is like an antidote to kind of help us to manage the heartbreak and the intensity of the hurt that comes from heartbreak. How else can we manage it? So sometimes at the very beginning, you're hurting and it just is what it is. Accepting it and calling it what it is good and it is strong and it is helpful. It's healthy to say, I am hurting, and to be able to say, I'm hurting because of this, this, and this. So just to say we broke up is not enough. What exactly about the breakup is it? Is it that you actually regret having been there? Because that could be a thing too. You're disappointed in yourself for falling back into an old pattern. You're disappointed in yourself for having settled. It could be that you're disappointed in the other person because in your mind this was going to be forever. It was going to be great. It was going to be epic. How dare you leave me? Yeah? It could be that the way they left wasn't ideal. And so you feel hurt about that. It's important to know exactly what you feel hurt about because it gives us information. And information in this space is everything. And Marie says exactly, I ask myself what value does each thing or person bring to my life? And I assess what energy I give away exactly. Exactly. So it's not ideal to be talking about giving yourself to somebody and you don't know who you are, what you're giving. Yeah? So we have to snap back and level up for 2020 and beyond. So ideally, you know what's happening. You know why you're hurt, but you're still hurting. What can you do? Sometimes we have to set some ground rules because otherwise the emotional runaway train will just take us to places that we really don't need to be. Setting foundations, like literally having ground rules for yourself. I will not do this. I will do this. What will you not do? I will not stalk their social media. Can anybody say amen? Yeah? That's not helpful at all. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? What are you hoping to find? And what you find be beneficial to you? How will it be beneficial to you? I'm waiting for you guys to answer. What are you looking for when you go scroll through the stories? Yeah, sometimes it's force of habit because you're used to being in a space where that person's activities, what they're having for lunch, where they're going is relevant to you. But we have to stop some processes in our mind and say, okay, it's over. It's over. And that brings me to an important point. I soon come back to the IG stalking and the story stalking. But the thing about it's over, it can be a very tricky thing if you don't really mean it. When we don't really mean it, it's problematic. So you have to make a decision, like a real decision, even if the other person says, yo, I'm out. This not working for me for whatever reason. Them can't tell us they didn't love you. They can tell you that, yo, this was the best thing ever, but they gotta go. And if they go, what next? Even though they say they're gone, sometimes we don't really accept it. Sometimes we have a little plan in the back of our heads to get them back. Sometimes we have a plan in the back of our heads that I could just turn on some of the old, chemistry and the magic and whatever and just fix it and just get it back. That's problematic. Yeah, because sometimes we end up sending confusing signals to the other person, and we can end up into all sorts of problems, such as breakup violence, where one person says it's over, the other person says it's over, then somebody changed their mind, and then we're supposedly back together, and then the other person says, for real though, I think we need to end it, and then the other person said, no, but I'm liking this, I don't want to go, and then it can have all kinds of problems. So it's important for us to make the decisions that serve us. Not in a selfish way, but the decisions that you must make to protect yourself. Is it over? And what does over mean for you? You have to now become aware of your new boundaries. Are you still sleeping with your ex? Should you be still sleeping with your ex? What does it mean if you're still sleeping with them? Has anything changed? Because sometimes that can cause unclear expectations. So we're not together, but we're still doing this. And I now start to expect that because we're doing this, you won't be doing this with anybody else. So we kind of start back together even though we don't say it. Right? And the confusion comes into play. Expectations start shifting. We have to become clear. No, I can't tell you how to be clear. You have to decide for yourself. What does being with this person look like? And what does not being with this person look like? Does it mean that we're still friends? Should we be trying to be friends? And my quick answer to that is don't push that. Okay? And especially don't push it right after. Because sometimes we lie to ourselves that, oh, we just want to be friends. But people still have unspoken expectations, and therefore the vulnerability, right, is real as it relates to being disappointed. All right? Sometimes we're friends, but in truth, somebody's trying to get somebody back. All right? So especially after the breakup, my number 2 point now, number 3 now, apart from you have to go through the hurt and not around it. The second one is have some ground rules. Hey, the second one is have some ground rules. Know what it means to not be together and what the boundaries are and enforce those. Mean it. Don't say it if you don't mean it. Okay? And the third one now is that we have to become clear, right, about I lost my train of thought. I really did. You have to become clear. I was talking about meaning it or not, and trying to get people, trying to get somebody else back. There was a point I was going to. It's old age, guys. Forgive me, but but it's so important for us to become clear on what it means. Are we together? Are we not? And stick to that. Trying to get other people back now, trying to get them to change their minds. Why do you want it? Why do you want it? Why do you want to be back in a space with this person? Because sometimes it's just a reflex. It's just a reflex. It's just somebody pulls something from you and you pull it back. But in truth and in fact, is this thing serving you? Post-relationship. Okay, thank you for that. It's coming back. It's important for us to be clear on where we're going and what we really want. You understand? Is it over? What's the purpose for it being over? And to mean it. And to stop trying to play the manipulative games of, let's just fix it up and proceed. Because sometimes we know in our heart of hearts that we were settling, but because of a fear of being alone, we go back into a settling situation because I don't want to be alone. And that's why it's critical to lay the foundation in which you enjoy your own company, in which you value yourself, so that you don't need, it's good to have it, but you don't need validation from somebody else in order to feel like somebody. Okay? So we're going through. Mr. David, don't stress me. What happened if she tie you with stew peas? Please tell me what it feels like to be tied. That means you just can't leave. And that's another dynamic that we have to talk about. What does it really mean, right? About this we can't leave thing. If it is that you're not getting along, right? Somebody has to make the adult decision and mean it. Okay? So sometimes we're going back now to the IG stalking and the social media stalking and why we do it and what it does for us. So my question again to all of us, and I want David to answer this one. Why are we stalking the people in profile? What are we looking for? What does the information that we find have to do with us? Because if you're moving on, right? If you're moving away, why you want to know what they are doing? So I know it's natural because you were in a space, but you're no longer in that space. So it's unhealthy. We have to set our ground rules. I will not stalk. I will not call. I will not text. And it can be hard as hell, right? Especially if the breakup was on amicable terms. Okay? Because then you kind of feel like, well, we can kind of sort of ish, be cool, and that's where we can have some weirdness coming in. Okay? And even in this space, there is a need for perhaps, even if not communication, sometimes communication doesn't make any sense, it doesn't work, but a respecting of the other person's stance. All right? So we're talking about you don't have any exes on your social media. Yup. It's important to not be bogged down by that, especially if we're still healing. Because in the healing process, in the hurt process, sometimes we have some irrational thoughts. And especially if we never had the firm foundation, we can start to go into a space of saying, oh, he looks so happy. So I was the one who was holding him down. Oh, he's thriving now. His skin is glowing. So he must have somebody else in his life. And what if he does? What does that mean for you? Does it mean that not going for you? No, that's irrational. And we have to challenge the thoughts in our headspace, okay? So we have to become honest. We have to be firm in our convictions. I will not do this, okay? For me, the boundary crossing thing, you're just don't do it, right? If we're over, we're over. Perhaps a friendship, maybe a true friendship can develop over time, but my suggestion, and this is for me, I would say don't try to push that. It's not natural to just turn off the switches and just become friends. It works for some people it happens, for some people it does not. Yeah? So it's important. Somebody says, what do you do when you block him and him still a show up on call? Very good question. I soon come to that. David says, what happened if she do me gully bop and Vegas are a foot high? I'm still not call. Tell me some more about that, David. What? If she do me gully, what does that mean? Tell me about that. And another question is, what do you do if you block him and he's still showing up and calling? So I'm gonna ask you to tell me, Katalia, tell me what you can do, right? Because we do have some options. Some of them might not be what we want to do, but we have some options, right? In terms of what can obtain. I soon come back to these points, but my foundation thing is that it's important to have your boundaries up. If you say to the person, don't be calling me, then if they keep calling, then I love what Katalia said, there's a block feature and there's a delete feature. Sometimes they keep calling, you hang up, as Jamaican people say, hang up, okay? Hang up, not accepted, blocked. Call it from somebody else's number, blocked, deleted. Because I said I don't want to be in that space. And why are you violating my boundaries? Yeah? Now, I'm going to share an experience that I had. Well, not I didn't have it, but a client was relating it to me, yeah? She was telling me about the fact that, her first boyfriend that she had, she was young, he was older, and he was her first. And they had a big argument, a big cuss out, and he came back, right? And the first encounter that they had after the big breakup, like it's over, was him coming back to propose marriage. And I've heard this twice from clients, like the specific situation, identical situation, where there is a proposal post-breakup. And it's such a very heady experience. It's like, oh my God. We see it in the movies all the time where it's so romantic, where he comes back, right? Or she comes back and they're like, I can't live without you. Let's be together forever. And the temptation is for us to literally press the delete button in our heads, good, and just forget that there were some real issues. And it's just the emotions of it. Oh, we are meant to be together. We can never be apart. And he can't live without me, and I need him, and he needs me, and nobody else will do it for us. That's all well and good, if it's true. But the reality is that even in healthy relationships, there are challenges. Pressing delete about what really contributed to the breakup never, ever works. Ever, ever works. Or me say, ever. It never works. Okay? And Trevisa was adding a very good point in response to Catalia's question. If it gets really serious to the point of harassment, then maybe a warrant or an order of protection. We do have those options. And I have to pause here to say, don't take it for granted. If somebody is harassing you, somebody's stalking you, even if it's your ex, do not take it for granted. Let people know that this is happening, because unfortunately, too many cases, especially of late in Jamaica, have resulted in violence, intimate partner violence. Well, they're no longer partners, but violence being done, right? Revenge killings. How dare you leave me? I'm going to take your life, and sometimes take my own life. Yeah. So it's important to not mistake too the constant following up, calling me all the time. Even though I said don't call me and it's over, they keep calling. Sometimes we feel flattered by it, and it's not something to feel flattered about. It is a complete lack of respect for your boundaries. Okay? It's not cute. It's possessiveness, and it's dangerous. All right? So somebody said, that's happened once in my life, he messed up again. Listen, it's not magic, guys. If it is that there is a huge breakup and then there's a magical, like, candles and music and violins playing, and we just get back together magically, no fix. It's not fixed. And so you have to spend the time to be adults, to be mature, to actually use your eyes and to engage with the reality. Yeah, that David, I'm gonna block you with the reality that things need work for them to work. Things need to be fixed for them to work again in a second iteration of a relationship. And David said, when the wine's sweet, it can't delete. I'm not even laughing with David, because this is what get people into mix-up story, into problems. And Marie says, yes, it can, David. It can. Yeah, it can. It can be deleted. Yeah. But on that point though, about, the sexual chemistry and whatever, is that really a good reason to keep in a toxic space? I don't know. Everybody has to decide for themselves what it is and what it is not, right? So while we're in the space of feeling hurt, as I said before, let us resist the temptation to be following up this person, because the reality is that you have a life of your own to live, and your life is valid for what it is. You could be single as the number one. Your life is valid. You have stuff going on. Focus on yourself is my next point. Focus on yourself. Let you be the one to fill the void. And it's a very important point, which I think I was getting to earlier when the memory problem came into play, right? Resist the urge to fill the void with either a second iteration of the breakup, of the relationship, or with a new person, because you haven't worked on anything. You have not healed. Okay? So it's important to take the time that you need to say, okay, I'm going through something. It's not the best time for me to be dating just to feel validation again. All right? It's important to take the time to work on yourself. And people might ask, how long do you think is normal to be mourning, or to be healing, to be grieving over the loss of a relationship? Sometimes it can take up to 2 years. It depends on how long you were together, the depth of the bond, the things that were shared, the history, your own psychological, emotional stuff, because sometimes it can take longer depending on what exactly happened. Yeah? So the important thing is take the time to heal. Don't rush it. Don't be honest with yourself, and don't rush it. And it's important at this stage to not succumb to the pressure of wanting to be coupled up again just because you feel lonely, or you feel like you just need the masculine validation or feminine validation to run back into something else. That's not good either. Yeah? Catalia says, sometimes in life there is really nothing there as to what you going, but to just thinking of the sex, your mind keep playing, you telling you that there's nothing better than his, etc. That's a lie. So you said it, girl, right? She says that's a lie. Okay? So if it is that the relationship is only about sex, then you have to decide if that works for you. Okay? But to keep going back because the sex was great or sex was excellent, when the other things don't work, when you can't stand each other after the sex, then what really is the point? right? The point is, okay, sexual satisfaction, wonderful. But then what? Especially if you and what you want a commitment, you want a long-term thing. You can't build a long-term relationship on just sex alone. So everybody has to decide for themselves, what do I really want out of this? What was I really getting satisfied in this relationship? If you just want a sexual partner, then clearly, based on what you guys are saying, it can work because that person is good in bed or the chemistry is great. But if it is that one party or both parties want something more, then you need to fix the issues. And if you can't fix them, you need to leave the space and stay left. Okay? Leave it and leave it and leave it. And then Marie says, will you allow sex to block your true blessings? I mean, there are other things, right, in terms of your peace of mind. After the sex, are you wondering if this person is going to sex off the whole of Jamaica after you when you want a monogamous relationship? After the sex, are you wondering if they're going to be searching through your phone, etc.? Right? So it's so important. It's so important to be clear on what you want. I'm not here to knock anybody's choices. If that's what works for you, then do you, right? But you have to be clear on what you want, and ideally for your partner to know what they want. If she want marriage and family and baby, sex alone is not that, okay? So Catalia is laughing her face off, right? She said X will stay one side. So we have to become clear on what it is that we want. Now, another important thing now that we mentioned just now is the whole issue of having our needs met, okay? And the temptation to just run up into a new relationship. What are some of the challenges with doing that? What are some of the things that can go wrong if we do that? We can't just keep repeating a cycle, literally. We can't just move from one pain center to another pain center. And especially if it's a case where there is some work for you to do. Meaning, let's say, for example, that you have this excessive need to be validated externally. So your ex was validating you, okay? So the validation from your ex was so important, it was almost everything for you, right? Then that means that you have some self-worth work to do. It means that you have some mindset work to do and some loving of self work to do. Imagine you jump out of this space now 2 months after the breakup, right? When you're still in pain and you're still not healed and you're gone to another person. Chances are, based on psychological principles and just statistics, chances are you're going to end up being attracted subconsciously or unconsciously to a similar situation. So you're going to move from that into another one that will have similar hurts for you, okay? And then what happens? We hear people saying all the time, I don't know why I keep attracting these people. I don't know why I end up with these very doggish men. I don't know why. There is a big reason. It's because unhealed trauma, right? It's because of unhealed hurts that are not being vocalized and resolved, and therefore we have a tendency as human beings. I spoke about it in the last live. It's from a Freudian concept, and it's called repetition compulsion. We have a need as human beings to replay scenarios, especially those that stem from our early childhood experiences, the negative ones especially, to keep replaying them with some kind of a subconscious hope or expectation of resolution. So we want it to be resolved. We don't know how to resolve it, so we just keep on going back into something that seems familiar. We keep on going back into something that seems familiar. And remember this, we repeat what we don't heal. And that's why I jumped on live tonight. That's the crux of it. We repeat what we don't heal. So if it is that you really want to move on into a better space, okay, and stop repeating the drama from you were 21 till now, okay, you've been crying your eyes out after every relationship for the last 10 years, okay, then it's time to really stop and say, I have to do something differently. And what will that thing be? Okay, what will it be? You have to decide. You have to decide that it's no, that you have to make a change to say, yo, something is off. Why are these people so attracted to me? That's a big one. Why am I so attractive to the wrong type of person? And why am I allowing myself to fall back into it? So I'm kind of over the narrative, ladies and gentlemen, of, all men are dogs or they're all evil. It's not true. And my question oftentimes will be, what is it, okay, about you? Are you complicit in some way? Because if you're staying, then you're saying it's okay. If you're staying, then you're saying it's okay. That's the message that you're sending. So you are complicit too. So don't come to me right here. All right. And expect me as a therapist slash relationship coach to be saying to you, oh my God, he's so evil. At some point, I'm going to turn to you and say, so sis, why are you there? Why are we talking in the present tense? Why aren't you saying to me, boy, girl, I broke off with him. I broke up with him. Why are you still there? What are you hoping to accomplish? These are the questions that we have to ask ourselves to figure out what is it, what's going on with me internally, psychologically, emotionally, that's making me accept this? What's going on with me? Is it a fear of being lonely? Why I'm staying? Yeah? So we have to remember our ground rules. I will not reach out to this person. I really want to. Sometimes you have to literally put the phone 2 miles away, or you're going to send them a message and say, oh my God, please come back into my life. We have to sometimes we need accountability partners. So I'm going to call Marie and say, Marie, girl, he asked me to go out tonight and I want to go. And Marie will say, well, Kamala, the last time you did this, nothing good came of it. Do you trust his motive? Like she went talk me down off the ledge. And can I say to the ladies too that I made this post some time ago that was meant to be funny. Well, it wasn't, I didn't create the meme, but I shared it and wrote a caption about the fact that sometimes in certain parts of our menstrual cycle, it can seem like it's an emergency. Like I need to call this person right now. I miss him, I miss her, I have to find them right now. Okay? And sometimes it is a lie, it's a hormonal deception. We have to be able to say, no, I'm not doing this. All right? So I'm coming to my last 3 tips. So let me just read some of the comments. You guys have been talking a lot, which I like. So we're talking about love being different from sex. David says, everybody will hurt you in life. Everybody will let you down. You will see the flaws if you look close enough. You have to be able to see the good in the person you're with and decide if that's worth it. Okay. So we're all caught up. So what else can we do in addition to doing the mental work and having the discipline to stay out of some dangerous spaces? Okay. We have to learn in some moments not to be so obsessive about focusing on us, because that is a recipe for further depression. Okay? Self-focus. Oh my God, I'm so hurt. Oh my God, I. Sometimes an antidote for heartbreak is to do what? Focus on other people. What's going on with you? Yeah? Help other people. Be giving to other people. Listen to somebody else's problems or somebody else's issues. And not only call your sister into tell them about your problems every day. The same story. Oh my God, I saw him. Oh my God, I miss him. Oh my God, how could he have said this? Sometimes we need it for ventilation, but sometimes it gets obsessive and unhealthy because the argument is not evolving. We're not growing into a space of, so it really hurt, but I'm letting it go. And that's where we eventually want to go. So we can feel all the feelings. We can be tempted to call them and cuss them off. We can block them, delete them, whatever it is. That's all a part of it. But ultimately, the resolution of hurt, especially the hurt that stems from heartbreak, is to reach a point where you said, this happened to me. This does not define who I am. And my life will continue on an excellent trajectory without this person. And I'm good. Marie says, part of making that decision is knowing what you want. What are you willing to compromise on for that person? Is it worth your peace of mind? Exactly. We have to decide for ourselves. We have to always know what we want. And I will ever go back to actually recommending to everybody to get paper and pen and write down what I want. Become clear on it. Sometimes we have to go back to the draft document because we're about to make some foolish mistakes, and we have to go back to that to guide us. Okay? So focus on other people and start to think about what your life can look like, right, without that person in it. And there is a fallacy that sometimes we fall into, the comparison trap, especially if one party moves on. Let's say that you're the female and your partner has moved on to be with somebody else. It can be almost what should I say? It can almost feel like a primitive need for us to scrutinize every inch of the other person's physicality, to scope out that the person's entire life story. Who is she? What does she do? What is she doing with her life? Who was she with before? What are her flaws? What are her strengths? And we fall into this trap of comparing in order to ultimately reach a point where we feel like we come out on top. So it's a competition to cut the other person down subconsciously. Yeah, because we can't deal with the fact that this person that we were with has moved on. So we have to find something negative about the person that they're with in order for us to feel better about ourselves. That speaks to low self-worth. You are valid, period, point blank. There are women who will be quote unquote more attractive than you, women who are less attractive than you, and it's all subjective anyway. So don't spend valuable time that you could be using to create a business plan, right? Or journal in order to increase your healing. Don't spend that time. Thank you so much, darling. Don't spend that time obsessing over the other person, to be looking at her feet and to be looking at her hair and comparing and contrasting. It doesn't matter, because the reality is, right, that you are valuable and that person is valuable. Sometimes, even though it's a good person, you're a good person, they're a good person, it just never worked, right? You don't have to live in a place of cutting down people in order to make yourself feel better about the hurt and the pain. Even good people sometimes are just not your people. And sometimes you as a good woman or a good man just was not the best fit for that person. And it's okay. And it's okay. And it's okay. Yeah? Sometimes we actually have to become intentional. Shavisa says, in addition to paper and pen, email it to yourself. I lost the paper. Very, very true. Yeah? It's so important sometimes to have or go to coping mechanism. What do I do when I feel excessively lonely and missing this person? If you sit still, you're going to do something stupid. Exercise is a very powerful thing. I once heard Oprah Winfrey say that, listen, whenever you are running, jogging, whatever it is, it's hard to be angry at the same time. So it's literally a baggage shedding activity. Just let it go, just sweat it out. And of course, exercise also releases endorphins that make us feel better. Yeah? So it's important to have some go-to things, because you know that the day will come when you'll be like, oh my word, what did I do? Why did I break this off? Etc. It's important to have, thank you, Diane, and I know that you are the exercise queen, right? It's important to have some go-to things that you can say, yo, I'm going to do this right quick. Expect it. Don't let it take you by surprise. Sometimes, too, your mind will play tricks on you that you really made a huge mistake and you got too bougie with your standards. That's why you lost this person. And when that happens, get that paper and that pen and draw a line down the middle of the paper and write the good and the bad. Because it's human nature, especially when we want something, when we're emotionally invested in something, it's called the halo effect, where we cannot remember anything negative about the person. They're perfect. So the halo here, they're perfect. So, oh my God, it's over and I did something stupid because he was really great. He wasn't that bad. Yeah, why did I do this? It's important to remind yourself. Sometimes there were red flags that we missed because we wanted to be so in love. We loved the idea of being in love, and so we closed our eyes to the red flags. It's so important to keep the facts at front and center, not in a way of feeling superior to other people, but in a way to balance our judgment and keep us in reality. This person had good things and bad things about them. I will not forget either of them. It's fine. Okay? But let's not become delusional that it was all great and I was the one who left it for some stupid reason. Things did not work. Sometimes it's good to remind yourself every now and then of why it was that this is not the best place to go back to. Because if you leave it to your emotions alone, I promise you, we're going to do some foolish things. Yeah? So we have to become intentional while we're going through the hurt. Right? We have to become intentional. The other thing that's important in this journey is to be careful about who you confide in. Not everybody is a good sounding board for you to be listening to while you are hurting. You have some people whose value system is different from yours, or who have scarcity mindset that will tell them that, good men are hard to find, good men are scarce, or good women are scarce. And they will say things to you like, so, you want one older man for yourself? Yeah? And because you couldn't get a older man, you're going to make a perfectly good man just gone through your finger. There are people who will hear about the grossly toxic space and still tell you things like, girl, hold on to what is yours, yeah, no make nobody else come get him. And it will build up a competitive energy in your headspace about no make nobody else come get him. And if you are not leveling up in your mind, you can go back to a toxic space and go back to a toxic space. And before you know it, it's 2030. Boom. It's a new decade again, and you are still in the space of toxicity or in a space that's not progressing the way you want it to. All right? So in some situations, you have to sometimes be your own therapist or get an actual therapist, because sometimes your friends will not give you good advice. All right? So you need balanced advice, you need balanced counsel. And sometimes some things you might not have shared with your friends because of privacy. So they won't know that he had cheated or she had cheated, or they don't know that he had stolen some of your money or invaded your privacy or whatever breach there was. They only see the pretty side on Instagram. So they have no idea why you would choose to end it or why you would let him end it. Okay? And they will therefore give you imbalanced advice. And you have to become careful about accepting it lock, stock, and barrel. All right? So let's recap. We're talking about the fact that it's normal to experience hurt. We have to be intentional about going through it, which means talking about it, which means writing about it to get it out of your system. Have some expression. Okay? It means talking about it in a balanced way. Okay? And Trevisa is reminding us, never live your life through the eyes of others. I promise you. It never, ever, ever, ever helps. All right? I know somebody who suspected that her, only you know what you feel and are going through. Somebody who knew or suspected that her partner was being unfaithful, and she actually reached out to the other woman. And she was trying in some type of ways to kind of almost like bury the hatchet in a way. And I feel like it was a deeply psychological need that she had in the moment to bring the other person down to her level, so to speak, to say, let's not compete. Okay, because I feel like she was really afraid of losing her partner. So she had to, even though she wasn't saying, let's all be friends, or let's share him, reaching out to her to form some kind of common bonds, I feel like it was a desperate attempt to, to reduce the competitiveness, because she knew that there was something about her that was alluring to him. And so she needed to have her in her corner in some type of way. You understand? And those dynamics can be dangerous, especially if you never signed up for a throuple or for an open relationship. It can be very unhealthy and very difficult, okay? Because psychologically, many things are off in that situation. Why are you staying even though you're grossly uncomfortable with him having somebody else, first of all? And why are you contacting her? And then you have some women and men who will contact the other party as if they want to cuss and fight. For what? For what purpose? Yeah? Are you going to fight to get the person's affections back? You can't. It's not doable. It's not doable. That person has to choose, okay, what they want, and you have to respect it. So I saw this meme recently where this woman wrote that, listen, if my boyfriend or my man is in your DM, girl, answer him. If he is telling you, let's link up, you ask him what time. I'm not going to be over here trying to get in your face about it, because he is the one who is making the decisions. Okay? He's the one that I have an agreement with. I don't know you. You and I agree to nothing, so I can't have you up in my heart as thieving him or taking him away. He's the one who did not want to be kept, obviously. I can't keep him. Let him go, and you and him go be great together, right? And it's jarring to hear that, because we are taught to fight for what's yours and to hold on. But I agree with the principle of it, in that, listen, Let's not fool ourselves. We can't make anybody do anything that they don't want to do. All right? And a huge part of this journey towards healing, healing from hurt, is a big F word, and it's forgiveness. Eventually, we have to forgive. And we're going back to the meme now, which I shared today, that spoke about releasing grudges. Because sometimes for years, when we hear the name, our heart just gets tough. We're so angry. We're so resentful of the person for what they did to us or for what they did not do. And anger is a normal part of the healing process. But if you stay stuck in it, that's toxicity. And it's blocking you from other things, which, I believe God wants us to get. So we have to get to a place where we can rationalize the fact that, okay, I think this happened for this particular reason. I could be wrong, but that's what it looks like. And get to a place eventually, and I'm saying eventually a lot because I'm not over here trying to advocate that healing is an overnight process. Sometimes it takes a year plus to let it go. Sometimes it takes years to let it go fully, to the point where you can see the person and wish them well. You can see the person and take responsibility for what you did in the situation, okay? And also be kind to yourself, to forgive your own self. And that's our end goal. That's our end game, rather, when we're talking about healing. It's not for forgetting it as if you had amnesia. It is reaching a point where you can say, this happened to me. It no longer defines me. And my life is progressing in spite of this. And importantly, I can see the other person perhaps, or hear their names, and not have something taken from me, my peace taken from me. Because you're still paying if that's the reality. Another fallacy that sometimes we have is that when we forgive, we somehow have to still maintain ties with somebody. No. Forgiveness and forging a new relationship are not the same thing. I believe that you can forgive somebody and decide that you still have to keep a safe distance from them. Or believe that their place in your life is no longer there. They no longer have a space in your life, but they're forgiven. You have let it go, but you're not my people. Your energy and my energy are not whatever, or I just don't want you in my space anymore. It does not mean that everything has to be hunky-dory and fake. No. Forgiveness means that you can see the other person, you can think of them, and not wish them ill. Okay? I'm going to do that. It will be my stories, Miss Melisha. Thank you for asking. Yeah, it's important to remember that, because sometimes the person who we're forgiving can sometimes play mind games on us to tell us that you claim so you forgive me, but you don't want me to call you. Why you want to call me? Like, we don't have anything to talk about. And that's not because I'm angry. It's because we have nothing to talk about. We said everything already, right? And it is what it is. I've let it go and I wish you well. I do not have a desire to be your friend. I don't have a desire to be in a relationship with you anymore. I've moved on, and that is fully doable. Okay, so don't be tricked into thinking that forgiveness means that it has to be just like old times, like nothing happened. No. And forgiving is not the same as forgetting. In fact, I do not advocate for you to forget in the sense that you are, I don't want you to be holding on to it, hoarding it, and replaying it, in a very persevering way, because that's not healthy. But you need to remember it so that you can know what had happened, what you did, what the pattern is telling you, so that you do not repeat it in future. Okay? So I'm going to share the live. I have 1 minute and 32 seconds left. Are there any questions that you guys want to ask me about healing, about hurting? Feel free to send me a DM, right? If you want to join my mailing list so that you can get resources, worksheets, ebooks, etc., get access to the podcast and so forth, then go in my bio, click the link, and at the bottom you will see join the Blooming Tribe. You can sign up for the mailing list there. So because IG Live is about to kick me off, it's been a great conversation on my end. Thank you so much for joining me and for being an active audience. I live for this, right? I love it, and I'm glad you guys are getting value out of it. So please let me know what topics next. Okay, what do you want us to talk about? I think I'm going to jump off and come back on for 5 minutes, just so that we can have maybe a quick what's the word? A quick question and answer segment so I can really serve you more. So 5 minutes more. I'm going to jump off this one. So join me again like no. All right. Thank you.